to talk about weight gain during perimenopause, menopause, and beyond. Like, is it inevitable? Are you screwed being a woman? And the answer is no. Here's the thing. On average, assuming you do nothing different than you've always done, you will gain 2 to 5 pounds, possibly 10 to 20 pounds as we go through that transition phase. Estrogen and progesterone begin fluctuating, which typically act as a buffer for cortisol. Cortisol is spiked especially if you're living, a modern day, highly stressful life. And cortisol tells the body to release glucose. It's a quick source of energy for fight or flight. If you're doing that all day long and you're at this stage in your life, chances are you haven't been doing a lot to preserve muscle tissue or maintain muscle tissue. On average, the woman that comes to me tends to lean on cardio, but you've been losing muscle since you were in your 30s or since you entered into your 30s. And if you don't do anything to protect that or preserve that, you're missing something that helps you absorb the glucose when it is released into the bloodstream. So glucose is blood sugar, okay? Carbohydrate, bread, sugar, it all breaks down to glucose in the body. So when you have this excess of glucose, it has to go somewhere. And it ends up going into your fat cells, okay? Less muscle you have, there's only one other place for it to go. All right. Now, during this time, we tend to become, and this is the common denominator and the thing that you can do something about, we become insulin resistant. People say that as we make our transition through this period of time, we see a redistribution of fat from hips and thighs to the stomach. All right. And estrogen decreases and increases are often credited for that. But belly fat is a symptom of insulin resistance. So there's the common denominator that we have control over. One other thing that you'll hear mentioned is that you become leptin resistant. Well, let me explain something. So when you release sugar into the bloodstream, your body produces insulin to clear that sugar, to shuttle it into the cells for storage. All right, well, when you do that a lot, insulin drives leptin. When you do that a lot, when you're producing a lot of insulin, a lot of leptin, you become insulin resistant, leptin resistant. Leptin is the hormone that tells the body that it's in a fed state. So, now you're no longer getting the signal that you're fed, and it's driving overeating, particularly of sugary, fatty foods. So all of these things actually work together. And the good news is that you are not screwed and there is a fix. But you cannot do things the way you've always done them. It's really, really, really important at this time of your life to actively build muscle tissue. And that involves going to the gym, doing weight training routines. Maybe not the gym. You can do this in your home. But you need to strength train. And then with strength training, the way the muscle works is you go in, you break down the muscle, and then you go home and you recover. It's not something you want to do every single day. So you break down the muscle, and then you give the muscle space to build back up. Muscle is a very helpful, metabolically active tissue, and it increases your insulin sensitivity. That becomes your goal at this stage of life. And then eating in a way that increases your insulin sensitivity helps you build muscle. So we're talking about adequate protein. You want to subtract carbohydrates the majority of time. Okay, so carbs are for kids. Don't take them out entirely. I often recommend for the average person who's not a competitive athlete, just the average Joe who's living the average modern life, to subtract that carbohydrate 6 days a week. And then 1 day a week, spike it, because now you've become more leptin sensitive. So you can bring in carbohydrates 1 day a week, which drive insulin, which drive leptin, tell the body it's in a fed state. You're killing that hunger that a lot of people deal with when they stay on a restrictive diet for a long period of time, because they let that leptin fall off. So you actually want to bring that in. Yes, there is a diet god. Good news. So you spike the leptin, you maintain the insulin sensitivity, and then what you notice is the belly fat starts to come off and you're not screwed. So there's a reason that you did gain the weight if you did. All right. And you just didn't know. And the reality is, I'm learning that a lot of folks out there go to their doctor, go to their medical professionals, and they just don't know. But keep in mind, many of our medical professionals are overweight. I work with many of them. Okay. They're my clients. So now that you have some understanding, I want you to change your mantra. If you want to change something, including your mantra, you have to understand that which is shaping it. Okay. So this body that you have is amazing. You just need to spend some time with it and get to understand how it works so that the two of you can begin working in this symbiotic relationship. The good news is you're not screwed. There is a solution. And if you need some help, you can reach out to me at kaizentrainingacademy.com. Before I go, I wanted to mention something that I'm sure some of you are thinking about, and that's bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. I hope you're thinking about bioidentical and not synthetic, just because there's a whole host of problems that comes along with that. But which hormones help us to maintain insulin sensitivity? Well, one of those is testosterone, which some women are fearful of, but you had testosterone. It is dipping, and bringing it back up does help you with muscle development and muscle recovery. Estrogen also helps women in particular with muscle development and recovery. All right. And then progesterone helps to act as a buffer for cortisol. So it protects us from those chronic cortisol spikes. Obviously, you still need to do things to reduce stress. This is not a blanket band-aid to cover up your crazy life. You do need to address that. The thing that you need to keep in mind when it comes to these hormones is they work with one another, okay? I've met people who have developed estrogen dominance because their medical provider neglected to realize the fact, or who knows why or what happened. But when you develop estrogen dominance, you are putting yourself in a position to gain more body fat. Okay, to gain more body fat and to store more body fat. Even after menopause, you can be estrogen dominant, even though you're just producing a little bit, especially if you have body fat, because body fat helps us to produce the most potent form of estrogen, which is estradiol. And we're very sensitive to that. So keep that in mind when you are speaking to somebody about HRT. There are doctors out there that have that old school mindset where women don't touch testosterone. And I'm in total disagreement with that. Testosterone has so many benefits. Obviously, we're not talking about super physiological doses of the stuff, but enough to make you feel like a human again, to lose weight effectively, like you should be able to. Thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you next week.